Blau und weiß sein Leben lang. Hallo meine Leute. Willkommen zum das einzige Schalke Podcast auf English. That's right, folks. Officially the world's only English Schalke podcast. This is episode 108 of SchalkeMerica, and I'm your host, Richard Kharman. As always, joining me on the show is co-host Jack Mangan. How are we doing, Jack?
Doing all right. Always enjoy a nice quiet Sunday evening to reflect after once again a pretty busy week from a news perspective on the Schalke front. A lot of stuff from the game to talk about, but a lot of stuff midweek and before the game as well. Once again,
you are not kidding, my friend. So many things to get to, but let's get to the thing that's the most important at the moment. An update on Mark Uth. For many of you who watched the game, we knew that he got injured during the game. He did post a picture on Instagram this evening, a few hours ago actually, and he says, good evening. It's a translation. Good evening, everyone. I'm doing pretty well. I'm expected to be released from the hospital tomorrow. Thank you for the numerous recovery wishes, well wishes. Love, Mark. So it's a picture of him at the bedside of the hospital. He's obviously in better spirits. It's great to hear that he is talking now, because for a while it was very scary moments at the WWK arena.
Yeah, it really was. It's not often that you see, at least in my opinion, in soccer, people get knocked unconscious in that way. Sometimes if you get a head injury, you start seeing stars, and you take a second or two before you really actually go out. And so you kind of have time to kind of fall down and kind of brace yourself to some extent. And this was just one of those weird ones where he was in midair when he got knocked straight unconscious. And so he just felt like a sack of potatoes, had no way to protect himself or kind of fix how he landed. I think he kind of ended up like rolling up into one of the Augsburg players' legs too. Yeah. I mean, it was not good. And he was out cold. And so definitely scary, because you didn't know if he hurt his neck or if he hurt his head for a bit. It seemed like it took him a while to kind of come to as well. Ultimately had 15 minutes of stoppage time at the end of the first half as a result. So that's how long it took to really make sure that he was going to be in stable condition and get him off the pitch and over to the ambulance and everything. So yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah, we were just getting live updates from our buddy James Thorogood during the podcast, during the telecast, I should say. Gave us an update just before halftime, and then at the end of the game, he updated us on that. He's talking now and stuff like that. And so then, of course, Mark Uth with the ultimate update at the end. So it's good that he'll be released from the hospital tomorrow. It's very unlikely we're going to see him Wednesday, probably not Saturday, but who knows? Depends how he recovers from the concussions, what they're calling it now. So that's the first thing we wanted to get out of the way. Jack, as you mentioned, it's been a jam-packed weekend for news, and the last couple of weeks, probably last month or so. So let's get to the news for this week. First, the supervisory board, they came out and made a statement on the Schalke website. And then, as expected, the Ultras came out in response to that. So first with the supervisory board making their statement, they came out, and is really, I think, because the Ultras have put a bunch of banners around the training facility in the recent weeks, and they're saying, it's really unfair to pinpoint all the blame on one direction. It's we're all a team. We should be doing this together. Let's focus on staving off relegation and so on and so forth. First, your comments on the supervisory board.
I don't think the statement itself was that awful in terms of what the actual content of it was.
Right.
I guess what I would say about it, and I'm trying to tread carefully here, is just that I question the wisdom of releasing a statement that's only discernible purpose is to sort of admonish the fan base for the way in which they're going about their criticisms of what's occurring to their club, and then also just sort of moderate that criticism going forward. And just, if I had been asked if that was a good idea to release a statement like that, I could have probably predicted the way in which a lot of fans would feel about it and the way in which the Ultras ultimately responded. So I feel like I was surprised that they would have released a statement like that, just because it seemed fairly obvious that it wouldn't necessarily strike the tone I think they were hoping it would.
Yeah.
Do you agree?
I agree. No, I agree 100% with that. Like I said, I don't see anything that was too blaring, that was, alarm bells going off with the statement itself. But like you said, it was expected that the Ultras would respond. And that they did. We won't get too in depth about what both statements read, because we just made a video of it here on YouTube. So just check it out after the podcast. It goes a little bit more in depth about it. But in short, what the Ultras came out and said was basically, like, hey, you have no right to be talking about us. We're doing everything we can for that. We all want to save off relegation, but really it's the economic side that's been faltering, and the players, picking of the teams and stuff like that. And that's nothing to do with the fans. This is all behind you guys, and probably pointing more fingers to like Alexander Jobs and other people like that. But we're not going to take sides or anything like that. That's what just happened. Both statements came out. Definitely check out the video if you want to read more about the statements and stuff like that. Any quick comments before we move on in terms of the ultras making their statement, Jack?
No, I mean, not really. Like I said, I kind of once I saw what the board released, I was kind of just waiting until we'd hear some sort of response, because like I said, it was just seemed kind of inevitable that it was going to go that way.
Yeah.
But hopefully we can all kind of move on from that, and there's no further exchanging of words going forward.
Right. Well, there was a kind of further exchanging of words. The ultras, before the team went over to Augsburg, met the team at the bus. And they basically, they were saying, hey, make sure you play for the shirt. We're all behind you. Or giving a motivation, basically like that. And then they did the fight and win chant to try to motivate the guys. It was really, really moving stuff. It seemed to work for the guys, and we'll get to that a little bit later. But before we do, there's two other news bits I want to talk about. First, after the last game, obviously Malik Thiaw, own goal. It's always so much you can do about it. He came out and billed, and he said, hey, yeah, I own up to the goal. It was my fault. Really, I should have done better. I should have been stronger on the ball. Took credit for that, or took the blame for that. But he stepped up and he said, you know what? Our team needs to do better. We need to play with some balls. We need to be stronger. And I found it odd that the youngest member on the team is coming out and saying this kind of stuff when it really should be the veterans, Jack. We're looking for leadership in a time like this. And having one of your youngsters come out and putting him out in front of everybody else. It's kind of what the ultras are saying, like, why are you putting our youngest person out there to talk? Why isn't somebody else talking? It should be more leadership as opposed to Mr. 19-year-old Thiaw.
Yeah, it's hard to disagree with that. I mean, I think you've seen some other players like Mark Uth say things that are in a similar vein to those comments. But yeah, I mean, I understand the point that, you have a young guy who's really at a point in his career where this is the first consistent run of games he's had. Yeah. Like for the most part. And so the idea that he's the one that's trying to set the tone. It's a little bit, it's slightly concerning from an outside perspective. Once again, we don't know what's always happening behind closed doors and everything.
Right.
But maybe you'd like some of your other captains, leaders, Mascarell, people like that to be slightly more vocal in talking about those kind of things.
Yeah. And the last bit of news we're going to talk about, something that came up today, really out of nowhere. Put on the screen, Mr. Uwe Kemmer. He is on the supervisory board, elected in 2020, no less. He resigned today, and a big post came out, or a big statement from him, and he posted, this is on Facebook that he posted, and I'll read it really quickly, as much as I can of it. It says, Dear Schalke, I declared my immediate resignation to the panel of Jens Buchta, the chairman of our board today. In many years as an AR member, the close appearance of the supervisory board has always been a special concern to me. In the spirit of this unity, of course, I also supported the decisions I did not stand behind 100% behind, and that is also normal with such a panel. But the current situation of the club is now putting all the bodies and decisions it makes of the club before a particularly severe trial, an unprecedented sports crisis, coronavirus pandemic, economic situation, basic orientation of the club, and deriving personal issues. Now it's about basic things. And he goes on to say, I do not stand fundamentally with what's going on right now, and I just need to step away from the team, or step away from the supervisory board and his duties. So he put in his resignation letter. Like I said, it happened all of a sudden. Any comments on this? I mean, this is pretty shocking when a supervisory board member who's elected in 2020 just steps down. Hard to make sense of what is going on. There's obviously more chaos going on behind the scenes than we know about.
Yeah, it certainly raises an eyebrow, particularly because it's in some ways you can draw a similarity to Mika Reshka in the way he left, in terms of just being him no longer seeing eye to eye with Jürgen Schneider in terms of where they see the direction of the club going. I mean, I'm not saying it's the exact same situation, right, but I mean, when you read his statement, it definitely sounds like he's hinting at deeper fundamental themes, as opposed to more like small practical things. Like, I don't agree with this particular decision or something like that. It's more like, I don't agree with the general direction that we're headed in. When it's that fundamental, it really becomes I'm either just going to be slowing down your process but not accomplishing anything, or I can step aside and just say, I don't support this anymore, that kind of thing. So I understand it from his perspective why he decided to do what he did. But yeah, it does raise an eyebrow, and it's concerning if there's people involved with the club that feel like there's people pulling in different directions and they're not necessarily happy with the directions that seem to be getting the advantage, I guess.
Yeah, no, exactly. And it's interesting because I found some of the wording in there that kind of, maybe it's just me, but he was talking about fundamentally we're not the same anymore. And I'm wondering if, because there was rumors in this offseason about Schalke may have to deviate from their 50+1 and try something, any means necessary to get a little bit more money in. Not like Bayern necessarily, but find a way to get some more funds in. Maybe it's that, maybe it's not, but maybe it's me reading between the lines with the fundamentally different. I don't know. That's how I took it. Doesn't mean anybody else took it that way. Just that's me trying to read through the lines. Really, we don't know. Nobody knows, and so until we do, I guess we gotta just sit there and try not to speculate too much.
No, I mean that's one of the things that kind of comes to mind that you wonder if that's what's being hinted at to some extent when you read the statement. So I mean we don't know, but it's something to keep an eye on and doesn't exactly instill tons of confidence in you.
No, it does not. Well, the motivation we talked about with that the ultras provided before the game, before the team took the bus to Augsburg, it did obviously do some good for the team. It could go in one of two ways, right? It's a very young squad. It could either motivate them or really demotivate them. We weren't sure how that would have gone. That could have gone either way. I've seen comments online, doing both. It seemed to have worked in this one, Jack. It's funny that pre-match we were talking in our little chat group about what the team really needs, and I remember saying team needs leadership right now. Obviously, we just talked about Milik Tiao. He's coming up and saying stuff, and he really shouldn't be saying stuff as a youngest kid. Yeah, he's probably put on the spot, but it should be the veteran stepping up. And I found it interesting that both Fairman, who's back healthy, and Stambouli were inserted into the lineup. Probably two of the most vocal leaders we have and the biggest leaders we have on the team. No disrespect to Mascarell, but Samboli's been the captain. Fairman's been freaking legend on the team. So I wasn't too surprised to see both of them there, considering everything that's been going on this past week.
Yeah, that's a fair shout. I think when it comes to the ultras and the statements they made to the team, I think. I don't think it's important for the ultras to try to track down the team and address them before every game. Right. But I think this particular week it actually may have been a good idea because of the war of words, if you will, between the supervisory board and the players. And I think maybe it was important for them to go to the team separately and be like, separate from everything that's been out there when it comes to our relationship with you, specifically the players. Yeah. Like, we're supporting you. We want you to do well, and we're encouraging that kind of thing. So I think that was probably a good thing for them to do this week in particular. And hopefully it had an effect on the pitch. It's still not ultimately the result we're looking for, and we'll get into that in a minute. But if it did have some positive motivation, that's obviously a good thing. That's what we want.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's get into the lineup, and this one was on the road at Augsburg. Look at the lineups first for Augsburg. They came out in goal. Gikiewicz was in goal. I probably butchered his name right there. Back four of Framberger, Guvilov, Udakai, who we'll mention several times in this podcast, and Gumni. And then you had a midfield of Caligiuri, our former player here, Kadira, Gruezzo, and Vargas. And up top you had Niederlechner and Strobel. Interesting lineup. Obviously, seeing Caligiuri back, he's obviously been doing very well since he's been at Augsburg. He has something like 4 or 5 goals this season. And Niederlechner is another one who's maybe not scoring so much this season, but last year he was one of the best players in 2019-2020. So were those the two main guys you're looking into this lineup when we saw when the lineup was first put out?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. We know Caligiuri quite well and what he's capable of and the kind of things he's going to bring to a game. And Niederlechner is another one of those guys who's not at the biggest club and isn't the most prolific, but seems to be threatening when they play against us in particular. So definitely somebody that we're already aware of going into this one. So I'd probably agree with those two guys being the two I'd singled out. Yeah,
I agree. And that's probably the two guys that I probably would have focused on as well. We know what Caligiuri brings. In the past it would have been Philip Max, who'd been the set piece specialist for them, and he's moved on to I think PSV or somewhere in Netherlands. So Caligiuri steps up, and he's obviously a specialist as well. He's done so many amazing things for us in the 3.5 years he was with us. So I knew that he was going to be a threat for us. So anyway, looking to our lineup, obviously we mentioned Ralph Fairman back in between the sticks. We went with I'm gonna call it a 4-3-3. It's a back four of Ochipka, Ceane, Kabak, and Stambouli. And then you had a midfield of Suat Serdar, Omar Mascarell, and Nassim Boudjelab. And then you had Benito Rahman, Alessandro Schoff, and Mark Uth up top. Good lineup. I mean, nothing too crazy. I mean, it's interesting to see the Stambouli playing, right back, I guess, is what he was playing in this game. But like I said, I wasn't too surprised to see both he and Fairman into the lineup. What'd you make of the lineup and even the inclusion of Nassim Boudjelab in this one?
Well, yeah, I'm not going to be upset to see Ralph Fairman in the lineup. Obviously, as you mentioned earlier, just hopefully brings a calming presence and some leadership to the sticks. As good as Frederick Runov has been this season, and I think he has been pretty excellent. I think that's a lone move that you and I both questioned at the time, but certainly seems to be a smart one for the time being, at least in terms of the dividends it's paid on the pitch. Anyway, I think Boudjelab getting into the starting lineup is interesting. We haven't seen a ton of him this season. It seemed like he was getting more opportunities later last season. He's a player that I feel is slightly less consistent than Chan Bosduan, for instance. I feel like even when Bosduan is having a game where he's not as tidy or is making more mistakes, he's still very much involved in what's taking place. And Boudjelab can disappear a little bit, kind of almost in a Suat Serdar way at times. So when I saw him in the starting lineup, that was definitely something that raised an eyebrow and something I wanted to take a look at. But beyond that, I mean, it's pretty standard. Schuff getting the opportunity out there instead of Skripski is probably the only significant change. Bammelbaum sticking with that back four that he's now gone to, just when we thought he was really getting committed to that back three we talked about earlier, switches it up, and I think that's probably been for the best actually overall.
I agree. That's the one thing we've been struggling. Oh, not the one thing, but the major thing we've been struggling is defensively. And I think going back to a back four and trying to have some more midfielders in there to kind of clog that up and make it more disciplined, I think is the way to go. If we were more stable defensively, then you could go with a back three. And because we've even seen at times when we've gone with a back five, playing defensively in our shell, it still doesn't work. They're still turning us up. So I think it's done well to go to this back four. And you mentioned Bosduan and Boudjelab. It's interesting because I think, I agree with you 100%. And I think, Bosduan, he may not have always, may always be consistent, but he looks like he's a first team ready player. He's making quick passes all the time. He's hustling back. He's always doing everything you're expecting of a first time starter, or a certain 11 player. Boudjelab, like you said, at times he can fade away, but when he's there, when he's active, you notice him. He's doing well. So that's a good shout out there between those two. But yeah, let's get into the game. What I noticed immediately was that, the team started off with a good early high press. We talked about this last podcast, how, we only saw that at glimpses in last game. They started off early with this one, and I thought it was pretty effective. Schalke was on the front foot, looked like the more dominant team early on. Things were starting to go our way. It looked like a goal was imminent, but it took just minutes for tragedy to happen, really. In the 10th minute, it was an innocent lofted pass, and I don't remember who it was, maybe Stambouli. Was in the air. Both Mark Uth and Felix Udukai went up for it. Heads collide. Uth is knocked out immediately in the air. Like you said, he falls into the Remy Khedira's feet, and immediately they stop the play. Obviously, you can see immediately all the players like, you need to bring somebody over now. And obviously, with 10 minutes of stoppage, it was scary moments for a while. And you saw like Caligiuri was there, and you saw scenes of Mascarell holding up the IV and stuff. So, we weren't sure what's going on. When you see something like that, you're like, what the hell's going on? And apparently Manuel Grefa asked the players, both teams, do you guys want to continue this match? And to Schalke's credit, they were like, yeah, we want to keep playing. Because
I saw some criticism of like the DFB on Twitter of people saying like, why would you continue this game? Why wouldn't you just call it? But yeah, as far as we've heard, it's because they gave Schalke the opportunity to end it, and Schalke decided not to, and then Augsburg just sort of yielded to how Schalke felt in that situation. So if that's the case, like then yeah, I support it 100%. If the players felt like they were still in the frame of mind to go and they wanted to do it, I mean, who am I to tell them not to in that case? Yeah, it's one thing if they're forced to. It's another thing if they agree to, or if they're still motivated. So, but yeah, it was very much a question at that point whenever it did get started, because there was quite a long time to think about that and kind of like process that. Was it gonna be a positive or a negative? Not that it really has to be either.
Yeah.
It could just be something that happens, but you're wondering if the team was going to look significantly different coming out of that.
Yeah, because we had started so well. I mean, that was a really good start for us. Like I said, the press was really working effectively, I thought, causing a lot of turnovers and hesitation on part of Augsburg. So we weren't sure how they would come out of the restart. But it looked like Schalke continued on pressing like they were before that injury. And we're looking good. And then in the 28th minute, same guy, Udukai, collides this time with Buyaleb. Another 5-minute stoppage there. Buyaleb actually had a cut on his head, and he had to get his head bandaged. So that total of 5 minutes there plus 10 minutes with Ut, we saw 15 minutes of stoppage time added to the end of this match, which is crazy. I always thought you saw that in England. But two injuries aside, I mean, speaking of Udukai, let's talk about Udukai real quick, because he was visibly shaking after the Mark Uth situation, as you would imagine. Saw his players, coming over to him, trying to, calm him down and stuff like that. Then he goes and does the same thing, almost the same thing to Buyaleb. And at that point, Mascarella's getting pissed off, and he had some heated words with him. And I guess basically Udukai's like, well, what do you want me to do? The ball's in the air. I'm a defender. I have to play the ball. I mean, he does. I mean, I don't fault it for either. It's the head collisions are very rare that bad. The two plays that happened in this game early on, and we had both in the first, within 10, 20 minutes apart. Very rare, but I mean, the same guy getting caught up in both of them.
Yeah, I don't blame him for either of them. I think I didn't see anything particularly wrong with either of them. I think it may have been the Buyaleb one too, if I remember correctly. I could be confusing it with another one, but if I remember correctly, that was one of the ones where it looked like he really flicked his head backward into Udukai, like was sort of the one that was really making the aggressive contact. And Udukai wasn't doing a whole lot. So if anything, like some of the contact was initiated by one of our guys. Yeah, but you feel bad for him, because anytime something like that happens with the Mark Uth thing, it's kind of just a freak play, and you'd feel so bad if you had seriously injured somebody. And for a while there, I mean, like, yeah, he didn't know, so not surprised that he was shaken, and hopefully he doesn't blame himself too much for that kind of a thing.
Yeah, and we heard as the game went on, Thorogood, the commentator, kept saying, he said, like, look, we rarely see this many heading injuries in a game. It usually takes like a season to see all these kind of head injuries, and you saw it all in one game. It was very, very crazy game overall. But it's moving on. Just a few minutes, maybe like 32nd minute or so. There was a free kick for Augsburg, and of course Caligiuri is going to step up. And we know. He plays dangerous balls in all the time. Well, this one was a dangerous ball directly into the line. It went past everybody. It looked like it took a deflection off Suat Serdar. It went right into the back of the net. Heads dropped immediately, obviously, with the Mark Uth situation. And then you go down a goal. Upon replay, it did look like Serdar was credited with an own goal. But yeah, it's another set piece goal that we give up. We continue to struggle on this. Credit goes to Caligiuri for putting it in and not celebrating. But still, we need to do better on these set piece situations.
I was kind of surprised they ended up giving it to Suat Serdar, because the initial ball looked like it was on target.
Yeah.
So I don't know what the rule is. I thought it was like if it was already going on target, then it's not. It has to like change direction, right, for it to be an own goal. Like it has to.
That's what
whatever. But yeah, initially it just kind of looked like everyone missed it. When I watched it live, I didn't think anyone touched it. But there's one angle in particular, which is from like the far post behind it.
Yeah.
And you can see that the touch that Serdar gets on it actually is the reason it goes in, because I think Fairman had it covered, but it pushed it a little bit wider on its already sort of curving trajectory, and that caused a problem. So, but yeah, I mean, just this is the kind of thing that happens to you when you're having bad luck in a season like this. I mean, back-to-back weeks now where we have an own goal to start off the scoring.
Yeah.
I mean, forget like, giving up cheap goals. This is, I mean, us scoring them on ourselves at this point. So, but once again, just kind of two freak plays too. I don't think either of those were from Malik Thiaw or Suat Serdar were just like horrific mistakes. I mean, they're mistakes, but yeah, just sort of weird things that typically you don't see in a normal run of play.
No, yeah, it was very freak plays, and but nonetheless, a goal is a goal, and they were up 1-0. But what I did like to see is after the goal was an immediate return to pressure by Schalke. It was good response by them. Tensions were very high in that matchup. Obviously, both teams wanted it. Schalke, obviously, for the reasons we've discussed, but Augsburg also in relegation fight as well. I think they were sitting like maybe 10th at the time, or maybe just a couple points spots below that. But yeah, important points for all the way around. But we'd go into halftime by the score 1-0. Overall, first half, I thought we did pretty good. It was a against the run of play almost the way Augsburg scored. I thought it was one of our better halves of consistent pressure and just overall play. Looked like we were the better team, creating a lot of the better chances, Jack.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't blown away by what I saw, but I would agree that it was overall pretty competent. And I think by the time we got to like the 45th minute, so this is like before the 15 minutes of stoppage time. Right? But by the time we got to where it was like 45th minute on the clock, I think by that point we really actually did start gaining control of the game again, offensively, and looked like we had some goals in us for sure. And I'm glad that we were able to kind of come out in the second half and keep a lot of that pressure up, because we had a pretty good opening 10-15 minutes too in the second half as well.
Yeah, we really did. And, starting out the second half just as good as we ended the first half. Rahman had an early chance early on. Mascarell with a beautiful pass. This is a theme with Mascarell in this game. He had a lot of really good deep cutting through passes that found people. And this one, in particular, he found Rahman, and Rahman just missed it, but then he would make redemption just a few minutes later. 52nd minute, Gruezo with a terrible back pass to nobody. Rahman finds it for anybody else, goes on a breakaway, scores a goal past the keeper. Big goal for us. Timely by him, just because minutes before he popped up and he nearly had a chance. But to get that goal was big for Schalke in that game, Jack. It looked like we've always had none of the bounces so far in the last year and a half, whatever. We got that bounce in it and we put it away.
Yeah, I mean, a lucky play, but also just really, really good to see Benito Rahman beginning to consistently get on the score sheet. That's huge. I mean, if you can get a second score, a third score to start chipping in goals consistently, that makes all the difference. I mean, you think back to Hinrunda last season, when you had Serdar was scoring and Amina Harit was scoring. So some of the midfield guys were chipping in with goals. So it's good that it's not just Pacienza or Mark Uth, and that Rahman's getting going a little bit. Just a bad back pass, like you said. I think he misjudged a little bit where one of his center backs was, and he played a little bit into space. And Rahman was alive to it and made a decisive run, got there first, did a good job waiting for the keeper to kind of make a decision and go down. And then at that point he chips him, and it's a really nice finish. Benito Rahman's had a couple of nice finishes now in the past few weeks. Some really composed stuff there. So, good for him. Good to see.
Very timely too, because obviously with the injury of Mark Uth, that's our main goal scoring threat, and so being able to someone else to step up and get a goal was huge for the team. So what we didn't mention before the end of the first half, Niederlechner did pick up a yellow card. He was pretty feisty in that first half, and in the early stages of the second half. Obviously got a yellow. Him and Ceane were going at it a bunch of times, and a couple other players as well. In the 53rd minute, just like a minute after that goal, he would pick up his second yellow. It's probably his least aggrievable play that he made. But I guess Manuel Grifa was paying attention the whole time. He's like, enough's enough. You're out of here. He gets off with a red card, and then as he's leaving, he has some verbal exchange with the Schalke bench. That would come back to we'll talk about it a little bit later. But going down, we're up a goal, or we're tied at that point, and then they lose a guy down. You had to be feeling good. It looked like we're starting to get some of the bounces that we didn't have for a long time, Jack. So again, it's part of that good luck. We go up a guy, and that was one of the better strikers too. So, what did you make of that whole red card situation and just the way Niederlechner was playing in general up until that moment?
Yeah, former U.S. men's national team player and also Bundesliga right back Steve Cherundolo was doing the color commentary on the stream that you and I were watching, as along with as you said, James Thurr, a good friend of the pod. And Cherundolo was kind of took a dim view, I think, of that sending off, and was saying that he thinks it's pretty unfair for incidental contact like that. And as you said, one of the fouls that he committed that was probably one of the softest of any that he had done. And I think James kind of agreed with that to a lesser extent. I mean, I think I would be sympathetic to that if there hadn't been so many different examples of Manuel Grifa talking to Florian Niederlechner in this game. Yeah. I mean, he had a couple incidents before he got his first yellow card. Then he gets his yellow card. Then there's an incident after Salif Sané gets his yellow card where Griff's talking to Niederlechner, and basically being like, okay, chill out now. Like, you got a call against you. Like don't freak out. Don't retaliate. As they're going into halftime, Manuel Grafer and Niederlechner are talking again, I'm pretty sure there was adequate opportunity to explain to Niederlechner that he needs to calm down, and has already been booked once. I'm pretty sure the boundaries would have been set at some point over the multiple conversations that these two had. So, I mean, at some point, if you're Manuel Grafer and this guy's just continuing to play a little bit recklessly and outside the bounds of what you're comfortable setting your game as, I don't have a problem with him just saying, hey, you know what, accumulation. Like, doesn't matter that last one was incidental. You're being reckless and you're not taking control of your body parts and stuff when you're flying around here. And
the game was tense too. I mean,
and Niederlechner was being a jerk like all game and afterwards too. So I have zero sympathy for him in this particular situation.
And I wonder if Manuel Grafer just kept calling him Corey Haim because he looks like a Corey Haim lookalike, So for those who get that, I don't know if Jack gets it or not, but nonetheless, Niederlechner would be out of the game. Would not be the last time we talk about him though. So let's move on a few minutes. In the 61st minute. We are doing well at this moment. We're looking confident with the team. We have majority of the play going on. Good spell possessions going on there, right? It looks like they have some intent finally. Eventually the ball cycles out to the right side. Kabak gives it to Zambuli. Benji quickly gives it, to Alexander Schulp, who, two guys immediately surround him, and he has a wherewithal to get it through between the two guys back to Stambuli, who, we've been talking about it. He's a midfielder. He's always been a midfielder playing defense. His best assets are his passing, his vision, and stuff like that. And it came evident on that play because as soon as he got the ball, he had a nice cheeky outside the foot pass to Suat Serdar. Suat Serdar's in the box, looks up, finds Buyaleb. Buyaleb, pounds home the rebound or the shot in the goal. 2-1, we take the lead. What a play overall. It's a long time since we've seen 1-1. We get the lead like that. But two, just the intent of play by Schalke with possession, and then eventually, doing a nice play to get a goal there.
Yes, the Stambuli at right back thing, it's not where I think we'd ideally like to see him, and we probably have some concerns about it, at least on the defensive end, just because we've seen his lack of pace be exploited multiple times already, and that is a position where that can hurt you a little bit if you're not careful about where you're positioned at times. But anyway, as you said, you're absolutely spot on. I mean, his strongest attributes have always been the things that he's involved in the passing game. And there were several moments in this game where he got forward and had some nice combination play, some stuff that we've probably been lacking at times with some of the people that have been back there recently. John Joe Kenny is as good of a shift as he would put in wasn't always, the best linking up, that sort of thing. I mean, the ball that he flicks out to Suat Serdar is a nifty little ball, and Serdar does a really good job corralling that, turning around, firing in it. And Buyaleb's really impressed me with how decisive he is in front of goal. Which is a quality I love to see, especially in a young player. But and sometimes you almost do see it more with younger players at times. They think about it a little bit less, and they're just I'm going to shoot this. And I mean, I think it was last game, right, where Buyaleb had it was called offside, wasn't it? But it was a really, really nice, decisive finish on that too. And that raised my eyebrow last week. And this goal, I mean, was it the best place goal of all time? I mean, no, but like he hit it early and hit it hard. And, sometimes that's all you need is just to put the keeper under pressure. It was great.
Steve Trundle said, all you got to do is sometimes just put it on goal and make the goal and save it, right? 100%. And we talked about, I don't know if it was Buyaleb before that goal that he scored last week that was taken back, but there was another time where he got the ball, I think it was him, and he had too much time to think about it and then ended up scuffing the play and messing it up. And I think we talked about how, like, especially if you're young, you don't want to react. It's that instant, you want the pressure on you so you don't have to think about it. Natural reaction comes, and that's when good plays happen. He had that goal last week that was taken away. This one is the same situation. It's a quick pass. Guys are all over him. Powers home a shot, and it goes back in the net. So great goal for him, first of the season. Really happy to see that by him.
And I want to shout out Serdar as well, because I thought Serdar had a little bit better of a game than he's been having at times.
This is a good game by him, I thought.
When Serdar is a little bit more in rhythm and combination play, that's usually a really good sign with how the offense is running in general, because he's another one of those guys that does seem to go with the game flow a little bit. There's some people that are a little bit more game flow independent, and they're going to get their touches and they're going to do their thing regardless of whether or not it's really working further down the field. Serdar's one of those guys where you do feel like he can disappear at times. And so, if he's combining in nice areas and really you're seeing a lot of him on the ball, it's usually a good sign for the offense. And I think this was probably one of his better performances this season too, which is very, very good and very promising to see.
Yeah, it was, it was a very good performance by him. I thought he had a good one, but for me, if I had to pick a man of the match, it'd probably be Buyaleb. I thought he was just everywhere in this game, doing good things offensively. So good shout out to both players there. Well worked play. Stambuli obviously with a nice pass. Very, very awesome there. And so after that goal, it seemed like the game became a little bit more even because you had Augsburg trying to push to equalize. Schalke still continued to try to push on a little bit more, or a little bit, not as much as they were before, but they're still pushing on. So it was an even game overall. But then I started seeing a weakness. Boswan did come on the pitch, and he did good for himself, I thought. But I started noticing something around the 72nd minute or so. Augsburg started trying to exploit Oczipka. Oczipka, I thought had a really poor game. And I think we even mentioned this in our chat group during the game. It's like, look, Oczipka's pushing up high, and guys are missing their marker. So Oczipka goes pushed up really high in the 72nd minute. Boswan, who was also pushed up, so no one's covering for them. And there's an opportunity that came down, and they nearly scored. Just 2 minutes later, they went down that same side. Augsburg player this time beat Ceane, fed into the middle. Kadir really should have scored on that play. That should have been a warning shot for us, Jack. But it was something blaring that was coming up, that they were going down that one side and coming up in the middle.
Yeah. No, I'm glad that you mentioned it, because I was going to mention it if you hadn't, which is that, around the time of the game you mentioned, you start noticing that a lot of their chances and a lot of their possessions, when they really actually do get deep into our territory, are coming down that right-hand side. That's really where they're finding the openings, getting in behind Oczipka, which is pulling Salif Sané further up the field, which, then cycles in Omar Mascarell into the box to start covering people on crosses and that kind of thing, which isn't probably ideally what you'd like to have happening as much. Yeah. That was definitely concerning. But the thing that was okay about it, though, at the same time, was like, even, as late as 85th minute, if not later, like we were still coming up with good chances ourselves and creating them offensively. And so you felt like we were just as likely to get the third goal as Augsburg were like to get their second, if not more likely. I mean, you had the kind of bad miss, honestly, by Buyaleb for what would have been his brace.
Oh yeah. That went over the bar. Yeah.
From Benito Raman. I mean, it's a really nice ball, and it's the kind of ball that we were criticizing Raman for not completing more often last week. And I think he actually did miss one or two in this game that were similar, but hard to be critical because he played that one and he had his goal. I mean, I think Benito Raman, according to Understat, at least had like 0.4 expected assists in this game.
Yeah, he was good.
So his involvement was great. You also had the Chen Bosduan shot.
Great play to create
just got the defender going the wrong way. Took a nice touch to get on his right foot, open up that, and he just missed it near post, didn't get it on target. But I mean, those two alone probably were, I think each of those opportunities were like over 0.3 XG opportunities that we had in like the last 10 minutes of the game. And if you just get one of those, I mean, you kill it off, and we just missed it. And as that pressure kept coming down the right-hand side, I mean, like you and I would think the same thing. James Thurgood, I think, said, I really think that, we've seen a turning point today, and like hopefully they can carry this into next week. And I'm looking at the clock and I'm like, it's a 75th minute, dude. I mean, you're putting the jinx on us like that early, like really, like come on. Yeah, it definitely was not over yet. But yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say that's exactly how it was, and I thought those players that you mentioned that they did well to create opportunities. Yes, they kept exploiting that one side, but we were continuing pressing. I think that's why the game was still going where it was, because we were trying. We didn't, I think it was Trundle or maybe it was Thurgood to sit on the telecast. It was like, you're happy to see that Schalke's not get into a box and trying to play defensive, because if they did, it'd be all Augsburg, and it's just gonna spell disaster. But Schalke kept pushing at it. They had their opportunities. There are a lot of good opportunities they had to make it 3-1, and I think it ultimately came back to bite them. I mean, probably from that 72nd minute on to when the goal was scored, they probably attempted down that Oczipka side probably like 5 to 10 times during that time. But finally, 93rd minute, Ralph Fairman goes to clear the ball. It goes immediately to Oczipka's side. The ball gets to the far side back. It goes across the crease. And then I forget who it was. I don't know if it was Vargas or who passed it in the middle. Richter gets it, free header. Equalizes it there. Niederlechner comes out from the tunnel, starts chirping at Baum and the Schalke bench. A lot to talk about in this play, but watching this play overall, I noticed right away that when the ball was starting to cycle around just before Kadir gets the ball first, right, and immediately Bosduan and Mascarell enclose on him right away. He continues running back down toward the goal while the play is going around to Oczipka's side, and neither of them are really hustling back to cover him. And then eventually, the way the play rolls out, I think Richter ended up being free and no one covered him. Well, Kabak should have been covering him, I think.
Yeah.
So it was really bad overall. Because I'm watching him play. If you're watching him play with Richter, because you knew he's going to score when you watch a replay, and you're watching him, Kabak has him. All of a sudden he loses him and stops worrying about him, and goal happens.
I mean, it's not surprising in some respect, because how often do you and I talk about it's when opponents really start getting width against us that they seem to get really effective and things start to fall apart for us really quick. We can't cope with that. When we get stretched out in that way, it really seems to pull things apart in the middle of the field for us more than it does against most opponents. And yeah, so I mean, I was concerned that they were going down that angle, and then I mean, but here's the thing. I mean, when you're on this winless streak that Schalke are on, and you are up a goal and up a man in stoppage time, you have to win the game.
Yeah,
you have to find a way to win that game.
People are making stuff about the substitutions. Do you have any quarrels about the substitution? In particular, I think it was Nastasic for Bazduan. I think many people were tripping about that. And we saw Skripsky coming for Rahman at some point, but you gotta end the game. You gotta end the game. I mean,
I think it was weird that you substituted off a guy who had some of the fresher legs.
Yeah,
relatively speaking, based on because he was himself a sub from Mark Uth.
Yeah, Buyalev could have been one substitute out, or something.
Yeah, I'm not as concerned about that. It's just it's the same thing. You can talk about how good of a team defensive performance it is for the vast majority of the game, but if you have a 5-second window where somebody just turns off their brain, it's all for nothing, because that's how quickly somebody can score a goal on you. I mean, yeah, and if you watch this, it's not even a good cross in initially. That's what's so frustrating is the initial ball out from the right hand side is not a dangerous cross whatsoever.
It was over Stambouli and somebody else,
and it just happens to fall right into the path of the BFG. Mr. Gregorich, who's
Gregor, that's right.
I mean, to his credit, is making a run into space that he should make a run into if you're going to play a ball from the right hand side, because he's there for it, and he plays one back in. But Ozan Kabak has him in front of him, so he's in his field of vision the entire time. You can make an argument and say Omar Mascarell, that was kind of his man too, and he should have not lost him, which is fine. But at least Omar Mascarell had the guy behind him, so it's harder for him to know where he's going. Kabak just wasn't marking anybody, and when the guy initially makes that run and steps up into space, Kabak presumably sees that, but just doesn't react to it at all. And I mean, so it's a nice ball in from Gregorich, and it's way too easy of a finish. And once again, it's just you give somebody a free header, right in front of the keeper in stoppage time. It's way too easy of a goal to concede off of a bad initial cross. And I mean, if that's the kind of thing we're going to do, I mean, we don't deserve the points, and it's going to be really hard to get out of this situation. I mean, I don't want to be too negative, because I think there's ways in which this was a decent performance, but it ultimately takes a red card for us to take the lead, and then even then we can't hold on to it, and that's not good. This is a real wasted opportunity for us to pick up our first win of the season. And hopefully we take better advantage of the next couple games against, once again, not great opponents, because these are super crucial games for us. And this first one is already coming away feeling a little bit like a negative to me.
Yeah. It was definitely a cruel way to end it. I thought there's nothing Fairman could have done about it. I mean, moments after that goal, they nearly took the lead. They nearly won the game. And Fairman made a humongous save, probably the biggest save he had in the game, because it was going far corner, and he put his palm down and stopped the ball. We end up getting a free kick at the end of the game. Obviously, we don't have Mark Uth to take the kick. I'm thinking it needs to be Ochipka. Ochipka is probably our next best free kick taker, or Rahman. But no, it's Mascarell, and he's, with last play of the game, it's obviously the last play of the game, high and wide. I'm like, come on, man.
Yeah, he hasn't been too impressive overall on set pieces. I don't know why he continues to take those. I don't know if that's because he's captain and he's inserting himself in that, or if that's something the coaching staff have decided, but clearly whatever he's doing on the training ground isn't reliably translating into the actual game situations.
Yeah. And then again, Niederlechner was out there chirping again, and just we'll see what happens with that. But it was a game that was,
why is he talking to Manuel Baum on the sideline? Just go away. He comes out of the tunnel and is like, he did not, in my opinion, did not cover himself in glory throughout the course.
He didn't. It didn't look good there at all. And, Kabak, we talked about this several podcasts ago, that he picks up a yellow or red in every game. He picked up a yellow in this game. He wasn't too good. He was okay in this game, actually. He had obviously that bad gaff at the end. He had some good plays as well. Like I said, I thought Buyalev was the best player of the game for me. Suat Serda is a close second. Rahman was good as well. Ochipka, probably the poorest player for the game for me. I don't know how you feel. I thought Sambuli was okay overall. I mean, it was a good performance. We were really good for 93 minutes.
It's really frustrating for me because I couldn't tell you who our best center back is anymore.
Yeah,
there have been times where I felt like I knew that, where I would say, it's Leaf Ceane, or maybe for a bit it's Ozan Kabak. But it's gotten to the point where it's like whoever I want to say is our best center back is also making the stupid mistakes that every other guy is making that are costing us goals and costing us results. It's Ozan Kabak's doing it. Nastasic is doing it. I mean, everyone.
Yeah.
I mean, Stambouli, everyone is doing it. So it's hard to single one guy out being like, yeah, he's performing pretty well, or this guy really needs to step it up. It's just kind of everyone's in the same boat right now, and that's just I really wish we had some standout performances more often in the back line.
Yeah, like in the last season, Kabak was the standout defensive performances. Ceane was out injured, obviously, and seemed like Kabak was the only one that was consistent last year. That's why the value went up with him and like crazy because he was scoring goals, he was stopping plays, he was doing really well. And then this year, I don't know if the pressure's going to get to him or what. Or the rumors get into his head. I don't know. I mean, it's just the whole team is just struggling overall. But this is one of the best. This is probably one of the best games we've played from beginning to finish, almost finish. Probably since that Gladbach game that we won last January. It's been a long time since we played a game this complete, close to complete. This is close to complete. We played a game in a while, and I thought we were the best team in this day, and we just didn't get done because we had some gaffes.
Yeah, but that's the thing is, ultimately, once again, if we're gonna maintain our status in the Bundesliga, you got to beat somebody at some point. And you think if you're going to beat anybody, it's going to be teams that are kind of more in this boat. And when you fail to do it once again, and you fail to do it when you're up a man, it's not encouraging. But yeah, I mean, I'm still trying to stay positive. And once again, there are some good things to take away from this game. And it's encouraging to once again when you see people from the Knappensschmiede, or not maybe fresh from that, but some of the younger guys, Buyaleb, Bozdogan, these kind of guys, the people that we always say we'd like to see them get some more playing time. Bozdogan was lively today once again, had some good moments. So it's not rocket science. Like these guys tend to show up and put in a shift more often than not. And yeah, hopefully we see more of that. I'd be open to it for sure. I mean, I think Buyaleb is playing his way into the starting 11. Would you agree?
I agree. You're certainly not going to see Harit right now. I mean, he's back in the team, but we didn't even see him sniff the field today. I thought Buyaleb has been playing really well the last couple of weeks. I think he should, get another chance at the starting spot. Swat Serda again. Rahman did well. Bozdogan, you got to fit him in somewhere. But I am going to say it again for the second week in a row. I want to see Hamza Mendil. With what the weakness has been, the last game. It would have been nice to see, instead of making Rahman for Skripski, I get that move, but I would rather see get fresh legs out there. We know they're going to go for that. I mean, at that point, they were making it obvious they were going down that wing. Take him out, put someone with legs, because that's what we're exploiting. I don't know. So.
And I feel like it's also the third consecutive game now, at least, where either Bastian Ochipka or Gideon Ludwig has been sat, and Hamza Mendil has not gotten the opportunity at left or right back in any of those games. It's been a center back every time, either Milik Chow or Benjamin Stambouli. So that is.
We saw him for a couple minutes last game, I think it was.
Yeah,
right?
but I mean, in terms of we're starting games with center backs being played sort of out of position rather than a guy that would ostensibly be able to fill that role better. So that's weird to me. There's got to be. I mean, it's kind of like the Katuchu thing. I think. I mean, although I'd say Katuchu had demonstrated on the pitch. And given us a reason to be demanding much more than Hamza Mendil has ever done in the Schalke kit. But if you're going to recall this guy from loan,
yeah,
and you think every once in a while you got to put him in. Ochipka has not had a standout season this year. I'm not trying to lay blame for everything that's going on at his feet, but I mean, you would think you at least want to give this guy an opportunity and see what he gives us. That cameo he had last week is not enough for us to get a sense of what he's capable of right now.
No. So my ultimate question to you, Jack, and we're asking also the chat, do you feel more or less optimistic heading into Wednesday's matchup against Freiburg? Chris Whelan is in the chat, and he says, we scored 2 goals without our best striker. I feel we can get 6 points from Freiburg and Bielefeld. I hope so. If we play that way that we did against Augsburg, I can see that. But we had to play that way. There's rumors that maybe Katuchu's going to be back from his COVID. That would be key because we had no other main striker other than Rahman. You can bring in Matthew Hoppe maybe, but yeah. How about you, Jack? Are you more or less optimistic after that game, or are you the same?
Yeah, I think I'm the same. I don't think I've gone one way or the other. I just think I'm kind of frustrated that we didn't take advantage of that. But At least it's not a 3 or 4 goal defensive letdown, and at least we actually get on the score sheet a couple of times. I think that's only the second time this season that we've scored more than 1 goal in a game.
Yeah. And the last one
I could be wrong about that. Yeah, I feel like
last one was the 2-2 game also. It was against
Mainz, right?
Mainz, yes.
Yeah. It's rare that we actually get on the score sheet a couple of times. So you have to be pleased about that. I mean, one of them comes from a defensive mistake more than us creating the chance, but we did create a couple other chances that, you probably say should have taken. Those were, decent opportunities. So just see how it goes. But I mean, as I said before, I've already sort of set the standard for what in my mind we need to do, which is we have to get this done before Christmas. We have to have a significant point gathering in these next couple games, and not the best start today.
No.
So
no, I mean, if you look at the results, it doesn't look like there's any change to what we've been doing, right? But I'm looking at what's going on the pitch, and I like what I saw in the game. They are pressing a lot more. I kept calling for it last week. We need some more pressing because it makes other team look awkward. It worked today for the most part. We need to capitalize better. I mean, I can see Bouillaleb and Bouzouin put away those chances, Rahman as well, and Serdar. They were all taking shots, which is great. You want to see that, but we need to see, start finishing this stuff, putting the stuff on target, make the goalie save. But I like what I saw. So that if we can keep up that kind of momentum, that fighting, 50-50 chances, we won those today. We haven't won that in a long time, probably since that Gladbach game. It's been a long time since we won 50-50 chances. Our XG was something like 1.5, I think, at the end of the game or something crazy. So there's a lot to be optimistic about. Augsburg is the tougher of the 3 teams, just by the table markings. Freiburg's obviously going to be difficult, probably more so than Armenia, but you never know. I am a little bit more optimistic. But again, being optimistic and being realistic is also 2 different things. We need to see it. We need to get 6 points. We need to look good in these games because a lot can change. I saw an article, I think it was in Build or somewhere. They were saying if we don't change our trajectory here after these 3 games, we might be looking at maybe we're going to look at another manager. Maybe whose team is going to come back to try to save us. Who knows? So it's still a ways to go. With that, I don't know. We'll see. Let's see. The game's on Wednesday. We don't have much time to think about it. We did ask the Twitter and Facebook fans and Instagram what their thoughts were, any questions, comments they had on the game. Of course, as always, they responded. First, Eric Houston on Twitter says, I'm not sure if this is a question as much as a comment, but that goal at the death today made me feel like May 2001 and May 2007 and 2007. Freaking gutted. Yeah, it was a gut punch. It was certainly a gut punch as one as you can get. Eric, the
stoppage time. Yeah, it hurts.
93rd minute of, oh my God. Anyway, Eric, German dad in LA, Louisiana. I assume it's Louisiana. Name is the good, the bad, and the ugly. I think there were a little bit of all. Second for sure, good. The goal he's talking about. Having a man up and allowing this many chances is not that good. 2-2, having opponents this wide open, very ugly. Yeah, it was an ugly game. Another comment from Facebook. William says, just want to say great effort today. They dealt with a lot of adversity and we're coming all together. A heartbreaking equalizer, but still a great showing. All right, positivity there. Steve Walter says, what a heartbreaking way to get a draw. I was getting so hopeful that this would finally end the winless streak. And that's another thing. James, our boy, kept saying, hey, they're finally going to end Tasmania Berlin streak. I'm like, oh my God, no. And especially it was like you said, 70th minute or 75th minute. It's like, come on, dude. Joseph comes on and says, when we were 2-1, I was slowly starting to chant Schalke songs with joy as we played as a team. It looked like things were finally clicking. I was ready to celebrate, and then the team's going to win for Uth. But then stoppage time came, 90th minute. I said to myself, okay, 25 minutes. We can do it. And then they got it, and then gut punch. Again, a gut punch. And then the last one we're going to leave you with is from our buddy David Thielen. He says, this game was a gut punch. As the theme of tonight, apparently. After losing Uth and going down a goal, our guys played well to make sure to get back into the game and take the lead 2-1. But as usual, we get beaten on a header in the box and have to settle for a lousy point. Since we cannot defend crosses into the box, I guess we need to try to block them at all costs in the first place. With Uth out now, let's hope that Kutucu is available for the next couple of games. Yeah, and the striker situation is going to be interesting. And right now, at present, without knowing about Kutucu, definitely Matthew Hoppe, Rahman, if you want to call him a striker, maybe Skripski. I'm like, There's not many opportunities there. Bring in Katuchu, bring in maybe another one from the youth team.
I mean, is Matondo fit right now?
Yeah, well, he was injured. He was injured a couple weeks ago.
Because presumably you could see. I mean, you could easily see, Benito Raman moving up top, and Matondo moving up, wide left. I mean, or technically even vice versa. But I mean, you would think that Benito Raman's one of the guys that could benefit from it, if not Katuchu. I mean, certainly if Katuchu gets back healthy and he's not getting selected, that's still going to be a sore spot for a lot of people when Ibisevic's contract is canceled. Paciencia is hurt. Mark Uth now recovering from this. I don't know what the concussion protocol is, but we'll be just to see what the lineup looks like in the next couple of games.
I wouldn't even call
it turn around so quick. Yeah. So
3 days because we got Wednesday and then we got again Saturday, I think, as the next game after that. So coming hot and heavy, and I wouldn't even call Katuchu an out-and-out striker. I think he's, like we said, like Mark Uth, he's a second striker. He plays probably better just behind the striker, be able to create and move around and get goal-scoring opportunities that way. But either way, we need bodies. Looks like Paciencia is probably out for the year. So not looking good in the injury front, as always, it seems like. But, yeah.
The last couple of games, though, we've been seeing, even when we're playing sort of like a 4-2-2-2, one of those guys has usually been dropping back into that central space to help create. And I mean, that's exactly the kind of role that Katuchu would potentially be able to fill, as opposed to playing like lone striker or whatever. Bujala was kind of playing that role a little bit at times in this one today, dropping off a little bit behind Mark Uth. So, early in the game, I should say. I mean, we'll have to see how it goes. But I mean, in terms of what they've been playing recently, I feel like it would be tailor-made for some good minutes for him. So we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, maybe we can get some. I wonder who's going to play right back. They bring Ledevig back. They bring Leaf Stambouli out there. Do you see Malik Tiao? To be determined. Hamza Mendil. We'll see. We'll see. If you haven't done so yet, make sure you sign up for the Schalke US newsletter. Not only get info on the club, but get the latest from all the local fan clubs across North America and even our podcast. If you haven't done so yet, also please subscribe to our YouTube page. I put out videos all the time. We just released a video talking about the statements from both the supervisory board and the ultras of Gelsenkirchen. So definitely check that out. Anything else, Jack, before we wrap this up?
No, I think I'm good. Yeah, I think we pretty much had it all. Once again, like I said, another crazy week, another busy week in the news and everything. I hope we can calm down and just kind of focus on the games for a bit.
Yeah, no kidding. Keep
off the field drama, man.
Off the field drama, no doubt about it. It's probably only getting gut-wrenching closer as we get to Tasmania Berlin's 31 games. We're at 27 games now, 4 away from tying that. I hope we don't get that. Keep tuning in each week or maybe every couple days as we get you the latest from the Royal Blues. We want to thank Schalke and all our followers for providing us tidbits for our podcast tonight. If there are any topics you would like us to discuss, just give us a tweet at SchalkeMerica. I would like to give a special shout out to Mark Uth. Hope you have a speedy recovery. Glad to hear you're doing better, especially with that Instagram tweet or whatever post this afternoon. So glad to hear that. Jack, where can our followers find you on social media?
Want to see my Instagram tweets, as you just put it, you can find at JM Mangan, JMMANGAN on Twitter.
I'm old. Leave me alone. The Twitter thing, the Twitter sphere, right?
The faces. That's
right. As always, you can follow me at R_KHARMAN on pretty much anywhere. Twitter, Instagram, you can tweet me everywhere, apparently. Until the next podcast comes, my friends, stay ready, and we'll be with you soon. Tschüss.